Hey everybody, it's time for some holiday baking. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a low-carb, gluten-free, thin mint cookie recipe. I am using the recipe from Carolyn's site, All Day I Dream About Food. So let's get started. You can see the full recipe there. I'll put the post or a link to the post below. So you're going to need some almond flour. Always go organic if you can. Cocoa powder or cacao powder. Swerve sweetener. Some baking powder, homemade vanilla extract, the recipe's on the blog, salt, and then later we'll do the ingredients for the chocolate coating. You need an egg and some butter. So first you're going to measure out 1 3/4 cups of almond flour into your bowl. I love Thin Mints. I used to love the Girl Scout cookies. Anybody else like them as much, so they kind of remind me of Christmas, but I don't eat them anymore because they're loaded with sugar and carbs. I just don't do no more. So, and 1/3 cup cacao powder, put that in. Woo, way too much. And then you're going to add our Swerve sweetener. You could use other sugar-free sweetener. I do like Swerve. A little goes a long way. I don't quite add the full amount, so I'm doing a little bit less than 1/3. And then we're going to add, a teaspoon baking powder. And this recipe doesn't call for peppermint essential oil, but I'm going to add that in place of the peppermint extract. You do use a little bit less because, again, a little goes a long way. You need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then I like to kind of mix up my dry ingredients in the bowl before I add the wet ingredients. Do you have a favorite holiday cookie do you like to make this time of year? Put it in the comments below here. I know one of my favorites is gingerbread cookies. I made the keto version last week for our Nutritious Thursday recipe. And today we're doing Thin Mints, or Thin Mints. Okay, so the eggs in here, we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And again, like I said, this recipe doesn't call for peppermint essential oil, but that's what I'm using because, well, I love my essential oils and I love the way they flavor food. So I'm using the Vitality line, that's the white label. And I'm going to also flavor the cookie part, which again is not an original recipe, but that's the way I'm doing it. So I'm going to add just a drop, because a drop goes a long way to this part of the recipe. Mix it up and I'll be back once it is formed into a dough. Okay, so now that we have it formed into a dough, we're going to roll it out. I'm hoping you can see me. The camera's a little far away. So I like these flat sheets. Otherwise, use some parchment paper. You're going to want to have a sheet on the bottom and a sheet on the top. You're going to roll it out to about 1/4 inch of thickness. I don't have any almond flour out, which I usually would to kind of keep it from sticking to my rolling pin. It doesn't seem to be too bad. This is one of my rolling pins from Young Living as a free gift one month. I'm really loving it. I've never had this thin of a rolling pin before, or without handles. I wasn't sure. I was going to like it, but it's quite nice. All right, so it is a little bit drier, but you don't really want this to be a moist cookie anyways. You kind of just want it to be a little bit on the crunchier side, right? So I have a biscuit cutter, a small one, that I'm going to be using for the circles. And again, you're going to want to have a cookie sheet prepared. You can use parchment paper if you don't have these flat sheets. I love these flat sheets. I call them splat, they're like silicone sheets. I'm not sure that's the technical name. So we're just gonna go ahead and cut them out, and they'll look like that. Place them on your cookie sheet. You wanna preheat your oven to 300 degrees, I believe. Yep, 300 Fahrenheit. And then we're gonna bake them anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. You're gonna let them cool on the sheet or on the tray, and the longer they cool, they get a little bit crispier. So keep that in mind, let them fully cool. We'll come back and we'll do the chocolate yummy chocolate that goes on top of these. And then we'll dip them. Okay, so while our cookies are baking, we're going to start making the chocolate coating. So I'm going to be using cocoa butter in place of butter and in place of coconut oil because I just like how it adds that chocolatey flavor to it. I mean, it smells like chocolate. It's just so yummy. So we need to have 1/2 ounce of cocoa butter. So I zero out the scale and I'm going to measure 1/2 ounce. Oops, I got it in grams. I better put it in ounces. There you go. 1/2 ounce. And I have my water starting to boil for the double boiler. A little smidge over, I'm not going to worry too much. Well, I better because, you know, chocolate. There we go, 1/2 ounce. Then you also have to measure in your chocolate. Now, she likes to use Lily's dark chocolate. I have a hard time finding that. What I use is Lint's 90% cacao. And I actually like just eating this. I find dark chocolate like this, the darker it is, the more it satisfies that sweet tooth real easily. So you need to have 7 ounces of this. So just add that to here. And always make sure you zero out your scale. Should have just looked at this. Oh, that's grams. That's not going to help me. I might need another package. I think I'm going to need another package. So I will go and grab that and I'll come back. All this rattling, I'm sorry. I'll come back when I have everything measured and we're ready to put it in my version of a double boiler. So we're back. I have it all measured and ready to go. I always, for my double boiler, I just use a pot and boiling water, obviously, and then I put a smaller pot or saucepan over that. You don't want it touching the water, you just want it kind of steaming it. So like, you do cacao butter, that's what you're getting. It is a little bit pricey, but we use such a very tiny amount. I've had this for a while. It lasts a long time. And then that's the chocolate I use. It used 2 bars. I was a little shy on the amount, but I actually did that on purpose because I find I always have all this leftover chocolate, and as much as it would be tasty just to make some more chocolates, I don't like to have a ton of extra because then I want to eat it. So with this treat already going to be in the house, it's plenty. So we're going to start letting that melt down. The other thing I'm going to be switching this recipe again is instead of the peppermint extract, I'm going to be using peppermint essential oil. And so for 1 teaspoon of peppermint extract, which you can use, if you don't have peppermint essential oil, you can use 1 drop of peppermint essential oil. And again, I stress that if you are going to be using essential oils internally at all, make sure they are food grade safe. That's what I love about Young Living's Vitality brand. It's deemed safe to use internally, so you're not going to be harming yourself. There's nothing synthetic in there at all, which you have to be careful for in several brands of essential oil. So get a good one that's food safe, therapeutic, and then you can enjoy it in all your tasty treats and baked goods, your teas. It's so good. I oftentimes use it if my stomach's a bit upset. The kids love it. And then it just has that wonderful smell too. So I'm going to wait for this to melt. I'm not going to make you wait. And we're back. The chocolate is completely melted. And like you can see, there is a ton of chocolate in here. So I'm going to add the essential oil now that it's all melted. You don't want to add it when it's too hot, so you want to give it some time to cool down a bit because you don't want to cook your oil. It loses some of its therapeutic properties. And like I said, really only a drop is all you're going to need because it can be very strong. So 1 drop will go a long way. We'll mix that up, and then we're going to wait for our cookies to cool, and then we'll start dipping, and then let these things chill out in the fridge for a bit. Okay, so let's finish up these cookies. And the thing I want to say is I forgot to add the vanilla extract before I was making the dough. I did add that, so don't forget that step. Also, when I was making the chocolate, I like to taste when I cook or bake. It wasn't sweet enough for me because there is no sweetener in here. So I added some stevia sweet drops. I love this stuff. I like the vanilla one too, so I put some of that in, and I put another drop or so of peppermint. Don't go too much crazy to get it to my liking, so just make sure you're tasting it. And then you're gonna take your cool cookies, use a fork, and then drop them in, flip them over until they're coated, and then we're gonna place them. Just give them a little shake until you've got most of the extra off. Place them on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper or that splat sheet. And then we're gonna put them in the freezer or the fridge. I'm gonna place mine in the freezer and let them cool until they're solidified. So, check this recipe out. You might have to tinker with it a little bit to make it to your liking. Always taste the stuff first as you go, so it's what you're gonna like in the end. Check out Carolyn's recipe at All Day I Dream About Food. I'll place that link below this video so you can find the full recipe. I will at some point be posting the changes I made to it up on the blog, so you can find those there as well. Until next time, this has been Angela from Home is for Making for our Nutritious Thursday. Bye for now.